Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Very nice to have you back, or very nice to have you for the first time here at Berlinale Talents, and also a warm welcome at the Hau Hebbel am Ufer, a house that we dearly love because it intensively creates that atmosphere among yourselves, but with us here on stage either. And we will celebrate that today with a very special guest. This guest nearly doesn't need any introduction, I think. Nevertheless, I'll do it. When he was at the Berlinale, that was 2010. And the Berlinale, he had a short film, and this film won a Golden Bear back then, Incident by a Bank, a film, if you don't know it, it's really, really recommendable. But of course, you will know and you will heard about what Ruben did afterwards, so quite some films, super successful. And now he's the three-time nominee with his latest film, Triangle of Sadness, and I quote from the nominations only the most important part, it's best, best, best. So you can imagine how difficult it was to get this gentleman here onto stage, but nevertheless, it was very easy to invite him because he immediately said yes, and it's very easy, I think, to invite him now onto stage. Please welcome Ruben Östlund.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Ruben, actually, we've met before. And we've met before not in Berlin, but in Sarajevo, where there is a festival, a very important one, the Sarajevo Film Festival. And we met there last summer, but we met the last time in 2018 when you were the president of the jury at that festival. And back then, we invited you also to Talent Sarajevo, which is one of the 7 offshoots of this initiative. And you came, and everything was well prepared, and the moderator was standing by, and then Ruben came in, and he just spoke and spoke and spoke, and the audience was laughing, and there was a lot of interaction. So, and then, years later, I watched Triangle of Sadness, and I think, oh my gosh, I know everything about that film because I've heard it before. And I heard the entire story. And we will speak about that method a little bit later on, but you will also experience it. But how often, roughly, you have told someone your film before it was made?
Well, it's a method for me, actually, to get to know how to do the film and how to write the film by pitching the project. When I was a film school student, I always felt that pitching a project is a sellout. You don't do it because it's something you do with only commercial movies. But then I went to Rotterdam Film Festival at one point, and we were at Cinemart, it's called, where we're telling about the project I was working on at that point, involuntary. We were telling it to many different distributors and investors and so on. And I realized, okay, I'm developing the project for myself when I'm talking about it. So from that point, I started to pitch the project as a method in order to get to know how to write it and how to direct it. So with involuntary, I pitched it. It probably have gone in this way, you know. I pitched it 1,000 times, and then 800 times, and then 500 times. The projects that I'm doing, I'm pitching it less and less, but I'm still pitching it a lot. So I would say maybe I pitched a Triangle of Sadness 200 times or something like that. Yeah, basically like having a stage performance, or like to sit down. What I do also now. When I was going around with the Square and I was having interviews with journalists, I always asked them, can I pitch you my next project?
Do you have an hour?
Yeah, exactly. And then I pitch my project, and then I get something out of the interview also, because then I can practice my pitching.
Okay. So, so we thought, what can we do to
Can I pitch my next project for you?
That's the pitch. Okay. So, because I think we definitely want that the next film is likewise good as the one before, so we lend you the audience.
Okay,
the stage is yours.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
think.
I can sit down, you have to sit.
So now you have to also bring with you that I'm not so experienced in pitching this film yet. So you are a test audience for me. So I'm going to learn more about the pitch by doing this pitch for you. And you have to stop me if I'm taking too much time.
Yeah, I look at the watch.
But I will feel a little bit the energy in here in order how long this pitch can be. Because it can be 2 hours. It can be just as long as the film is. Anyway, okay. I tell you the title of the next project. The entertainment system is down. Do you realize where this film is going to take place? Okay, it's going to take place on a long-haul flight. So you think one of these flights that is around 17 hours. We have like flights from London to Sydney or New York to Singapore. One of these flights that is almost 20 hours long. And quite soon after takeoff, the crew is telling all the passengers, they get the horrible news that the entertainment system is not working. So all of a sudden, we have modern human beings that is completely used to dopamine scroll on our small screens like this, that when the iPhones and the iPads are charging out, they are left to boredom on a 17-hour long flight. I mean, it takes approximately like 3 or 4 hours before the iPads and iPhones are charging out. And I think that this setup, for me, was like, it just came like that. It came like a sentence. It came like the entertainment system is down and a long-haul flight. I was starting to look into long-haul flights a little bit. I was starting to Google immediately what is interesting about them. And I came across 2 studies that I thought was super interesting. I always have a sociological study in the back of my movies in order to like scientifically prove that I'm right. This time, the 2 studies I will tell you about. The first one is a study that they have done on people that are being bored. And in this study, they asked the test person to go into a room and do nothing. And this test was between 6 minutes and 15 minutes long. The test person knows this. So when they go into the room, they should go into this room and do nothing. The test will be between 6 minutes and 15 minutes. And the test persons, when they did this, and how they described it afterward, they said it was horrible. They thought it was torture, really. So the scientists, they added a feature. They added the possibility for the test persons that if they wanted to, they could push a button to give themselves an electrical shock. And this was of free will. And this electrical shock was very painful, but it was not harmful. And almost 40% of all the test persons that was sitting there and dealing with boredom pushed this button and gave themselves an electrical shock. And even some of them were pushing the button 2 times. And I think if you think about something about that I think a human being is dealing with, is that we have a big, it's hard for us to be alone with our thoughts. Very hard to be alone with our thoughts. We're not having any direction or not having any project and so on. And if you think about the isolation cell in prisons, you can get an idea when you have this sociological experiment in the background to understand why people are so scared of an isolation cell when it comes to prison. Okay, the second study, scientific study that I heard about was about the term air rage. And air rage is a term that is that a passenger on a flight gets so aggressive or so problematic that they have to do an emergency landing. And air rage is something that have increased the last 10 years. And airline companies, they started to look into why have this increased? Why does air rage, when does it happen and why does it happen? And they actually came up with one very interesting aspect of it. And it was that if you are boarding a plane through business class when you go to economy, the risk for air rage goes up ×4. So, and these are the kind of studies that I love to have with me when I go and pitch the films and when I'm talking about the films. Anyway, so I will now tell you how the film will end. The film will end with that the flight crashes and everybody dies. And the audience will get to know this with the sign in the beginning of the film. There will be a text that is saying like, flight number ba 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 crashes and everybody dies. Is that funny? I thought it was a tragedy. Okay. Anyway, it's going to be funny, because you know why it's going to be funny. One of the reasons is that the passengers freak out when they are offered a compensation, since the entertainment system is not working, and they are offered a cheese sandwich and mineral water. Then they get super angry. And I think that it will be very funny in the context of, please, soon you will be dead. Don't have an argue about this cheese sandwich and mineral water. But I will now tell you why the flight crashes. Because I had the idea that it should be the entertainment system should be the reason why the flight crashes and everybody dies. So I was thinking like this. Okay, quite soon after takeoff, we understand that they have a problem with the entertainment system. And I was thinking that maybe it's like 20% of the screens that are working from the beginning. And the other 80% of the screens, this is both in economy and business class, I should say also. The other 80%, of course, complain about this. So the crew are rebooting the system. And when they reboot the system, I was thinking that then only 5% of the screens are working. So you can have this beautiful situation of someone sitting here and being a little satisfied that my screen is working, and then next to this person sits someone that the screen is not working. And then they are rebooting the system, and all of a sudden that screen is working instead. Then the first 20%, of course, get very upset. And it's because these 20% that they get upset that they offer them a cheese sandwich and a mineral water. And that just makes them even more angry. So they start to complain in a kind of a loud way, and the crew, the stewardess, they go to the pilots, and they ask, what should we do? And the pilots are saying, okay, just turn off the whole system. Don't let anyone have any entertainment. Make it equal. So they are turning off the system. And here I have a centerpiece for me in this film, a scene that I think is very important. And I should tell you why I think it's important. So we have the moment now when the passengers are on this flight. We probably see that it's 20 hours left or something. And we have a lot of people that don't have like any entertainment on the iPhones, on the iPads, or have any books or so on. If you think about Triangle of Sadness, and if you think about The Square, there are two scenes that I consider a little bit like the centerpieces of these scenes. In The Square, it's the monkey performance. You remember the monkey performance artist. And in Triangle of Sadness, it's the storm and the vomiting. At this time, I was thinking of, I'm going to create an anti-climax scene. And it's going to be inspired of an Ingmar Bergman movie. Ingmar Bergman, he did a movie that was called The Hour of the Wolf. And in The Hour of the Wolf, it's this main character. He have a problem sleeping at night. All his thoughts is coming back to him, and he's thinking a lot about his life and so on. And then there's one scene in Hour of the Wolf where this character says, a minute is a really long time. It starts now. And then we stay with him in real time for 1 minute. And I can tell you, 1 minute is a long time when you watch it real time in the cinema. I was thinking that I should do this. I don't know for how long in this movie. But let's say there is a kid that wants to have the big brother's iPad that is working. And he's saying, I want the iPad, I want the iPad. And the parents are getting annoyed by him being so on it. So they're like, now you have to just calm down. Now you have to wait 12 minutes until it's 2 o'clock. Then you will get the iPad, okay? And the kid is like, still, no, I don't want to hear anymore. I'm taking time now. It starts now, okay? Silence. And think of letting the audience being challenged in this moment also. So we understand that the mother is not only the mother is not only talking to the kid, the mother is also talking to the audience. Now you have to actually be able to sit by yourself for 12 minutes and do nothing. And then the kid can, at a certain point, can the kid ask, like, how long have passed now? Well, now it's 11 minutes and 30 seconds left. Come on. And I think that this scene will be the biggest walkout in the history of Cannes. Don't you want to go to that screening? Don't you want to challenge yourself and see what you will feel during a scene like this? Yes. Anyway, so this is coming quite early in the film. I have heard friends that have talked about when they have went to silent retreats, that these silent retreats really, at one point, makes them furious. That makes them angry. They get angry at the guru. That is like, why am I here? What am I doing? I was thinking that this silence can be a possibility to provoke the energy of the passengers, so they are starting to get angry. I was thinking that it should be, first it should be a section or a part of the film where the passengers themselves are trying to entertain. So we have a group of small kids that there's a little girl that wants to sing a song, you know, and she gathers a lot of other kids and they sing this song for the passengers. And the passengers are, like, of course, overexcited about this. And then we have maybe someone else that gets inspired of this and then does another performance, maybe a very beautiful performance. And then it's another one that gets very inspired and wants to tell a joke. And maybe not so good joke, a long one. And at a certain point, I was thinking that people are starting to stand up in the aisles and so on. And the stewardess, they are getting a little nervous. So they are like going to the pilots, and what should we do? Like they can't walk around in the aisles, they have to sit down. So the pilots then are saying, okay, now thank you so much for the entertainment, but now it's time to sit down again because you're not allowed to stand around in the aisles in the flight. And let's say that the passengers have gotten a little drunk now also. They have been drinking a little bit and so on. And this is provoking a certain kind of revolutionary side in them that wants them to they don't want to obey this. So the stewardess have quite a problem to make them sit down again. But at one point, there's one of the passengers that have to go to the toilet, and he passes the toilet in business class because it's taken, and he's going up to the first class. And then he sees in first class, the screens are working. And I was thinking, if it's fun, if it's like this revolutionary guy is someone, you know, Che Guevara type, you know, he feels a big joy of going back to the others and saying, you know, like, the screens are working in first class, did you hear that? And he's like firing a group of people up. What's happening is that one of them in the group of the revolutionaries says, okay, I will handle this. He goes up to the stewardess that is in the toilet next to the first class, and he says, okay, come on, you said that you should turn off all the screens, and now you have screens working in the first class. What do you mean by doing that? And you have to turn them off. And the stewardess go, sorry, so we can't do that, but okay, we have 2 seats here in first class. If you and your partner want to sit here, that's the only thing I can offer you. And I thought it would be fun if this revolutionary person is for a second, you know, thinking, should I take those seats? It's not long that is needed to see when he's thinking about it. And there's 2 ways of breaking this. Either he decides himself, you know, like, and uses it, they are trying to buy me, you know, like something like that. Or there's someone coming from his group. So he's about to take the seats. Is it 2 seats? But there's someone is coming, and he has to be loyal. So he's like, okay. And then he says, they are trying to buy me. So he goes back then, okay, and he's firing up the other passengers even more. They're getting more angry. What the fuck? They're trying to buy one of us. They try to offer us a cheese sandwich and mineral water. Come on, this is not right. So the stewardess now go to the pilots, and they say again, okay, what should we do? Should we turn off the screens in first class? And the pilots go, just fix the fucking entertainment system. Just fix it. I don't want to hear about this anymore. I was thinking that maybe it is that the co-pilot, he thinks he have an idea about how it should be fixed. So he follows the stewardess back, and in between the aisle where we have economy and business class there's a hatch in the floor that he like takes screwdrivers and opens. And then he starts to drag out cables, you know, like, like that. So all of a sudden we see the passengers are getting a little, this doesn't look good, you know. And I was thinking it could be a beautiful image of, you see, that we understand that the co-pilot have left the cockpit. He is now here. And all of a sudden, when he's dragging out the cables, we see the door to the cockpit is open, and the first pilot comes out. And he looks like very confused. He's like, and he walks up to the co-pilot, and it's like, and you know, he can't say this too loud, of course, but he's like, what did you do now? Which cable? You must have pulled in one cable, you know, like, and they are like, of course, trying to communicate what have happened. And what have happened is that they have taken out this possibility to steer the plane. Yes. So I was thinking, you know, that you sit there and like all of a sudden, like nothing happens when you're doing. And I would love the image, you know, when the first pilot and the co-pilot are standing there with all these cables and looking, and you see that the door to the cockpit is open. And if you're a passenger, you're like, is someone in there? Or like, the pilots are here. Okay, so the pilots now, they go back to the cockpit, and they have to like try to figure out what to do. But of course, they don't want to tell the passengers what have happened, because that is going to create chaos. They have to buy themselves time. They will, of course, have a problem when the flight is going to pass by the city where they were supposed to land. Then probably the passengers of the flight will like recognize this in some way. Let's say it's a blue sky day. So they probably have to lie and say something like, okay, unfortunately, we missed out on the slot time when we were supposed to land. But in 20 minutes, we will know more. And when at the same time as the flight are continuing, they can like try to fix this problem. I was thinking that it maybe is that they are asking, is there an engineer on this flight? They have to make a call. And of course, in order to try to fix the entertainment system, we are now asking, is there an engineer on this flight? I don't. Maybe they ask for someone that is an airplane engineer, but let's say there's just a normal engineer. And it's fun if he doesn't look very skillful, right? It's fun if it looks a little bit like, you know, it's a long time. He's not the most enthusiastic or ambitious engineer. And this guy is then like trying to deal with the problem. And they, of course, have to tell him what's going on. So they have to tell him, like, okay, we have to fix the steering of the plane. Okay, so I was thinking, when they're pushing it a little bit further, and they are continuing the same direction, they probably have to say at the one moment, okay, apologies for the inconvenience, and because of this, we are now offering you to pick a product in the tax-free catalog for 800 miles or 800 points. So they are handing out, in order to deal with the irritation, they are handing out the tax-free catalogs, or maybe they have them already, and then they are like, the passengers are allowed to pick one object per person. And so I thought it would be fun if someone is saying, yeah, I would like a Mont Blanc pen. And then they go, oh, excellent choice, sir. And now on this flight, when I was flying here, I saw these super silly bracelets for men. That would be really fun if I have someone that is taking one of these bracelets. Okay, and we are getting closer to the end now. And there is a point, of course, when they have to tell the passengers this flight is going to crash. And that we're going to spend time with the passengers when they realize that they're probably going to die. And this is an interesting part of the film, of course, because I have not really seen it portrayed, to really go into looking at the passengers. What do we look like? What do we do when we start to realize that the catastrophe is coming closer? And I was thinking that there is a moment here. Maybe there's a moment when a small baby can't sleep. So we have a baby that is crying and crying. And the passengers are trying to sing a song for the baby. And all of the other passengers are then joining in. So we have the whole flight singing for this little baby that is trying to make it sleep. And I was thinking that at one point now, closer to the end, the engineer, he's all of a sudden managed to fix the entertainment system. So the screens go on, and people maybe think, wow, the steering also is fixed. So they get super happy, start applauding, whoa. And but then, of course, they have to tell them, oh, we are sorry, it was only the entertainment system. So it's interesting to go from hope to like that, go really high and really low. You can do it in quite like 20 seconds or something like that. It's very interesting to look at human beings when we go from super excited to completely devastated, like with that small time range. And it could also be interesting, if there are couples on the flight, that when they think that they are going to die, they are grabbing each other's hands like this. Oh, I love you so much, and we have had such a great life together. And then when they suddenly think that they're going to survive, then they let go of the hand, and then you start to hate each other immediately, right? So then when you don't have a time aspect to it, you're going into the relationship, all the trivialities of the relationship. And then again, you understand you're going to die. And then you grab each other's hand again, and you start to say all these sweet things to each other. There's something happening quite close to the end of the film that I'm thinking is going to be very interesting to investigate. And it is the moment when the fuel goes out from the plane, and everything becomes silence. Because it really becomes quite silence if you turn off the engines, even if you are flying high up. And to go from a movie where we have had this kind of loud sound environment to all of a sudden complete silence. And that we will have these, the last minute when the airplane is sail flying, and slowly going down closer and closer towards the ocean or where they are going to crash, I don't know. And on the screens we see all this content, like all these action movies, and people are sitting there and being more and more scared.
What's going on?
How much time do I have?
That isn't a secret sign.
Because this is only the main story. Then I'm going to tell you. Okay.
Yeah, you're perfect in time. So
no, but I will wrap it up.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no,
It's
okay.
all fine.
But I will tell you about one part of the. Okay. But I was thinking that it would be beautiful to end the film with, when you go through the customs, when you are in an airport, and you see the people are standing outside and waiting for someone to come. It's something about that when people are standing there and waiting, because everybody's so excited that they soon should see someone that they have been waiting for, like a partner or a relative or what it is. And it's a very touching moment, because I think that the love for the other person is never stronger than in this moment. You are standing there and you're hoping for this person to come, and you can't wait for them to come out too. And then they come out, and you hug, and then you start your life again. And then all the trivialities is happening in between us again. So I was thinking that the film should be ended with the scene of these people that are waiting. Maybe for this flight, maybe for another flight. But it's just to highlight the problems that I think that we have as human beings. That when death is so far ahead of us, we have such a problem to be in the moment and appreciate like life where it is, appreciate the presence. This is like the general things that is happening on the flight. And there are going to be like a couple of individual stories that is happening on the flight also. I will just briefly tell you one that I heard about, because when you're doing research, it's so easy to do research with a setup that is in an airplane, because everybody loves to share their experience, what they have seen on an airplane. And the setup I was thinking of is that there is a couple that have a baby that is maybe around 1.5, 2 years old, something like that. And of course, they have to rush to catch this flight. It's always tragical and comical in a way when you know the flight number da-da-da is going to crash, everybody is going to die, and you see people rushing to try to get to this flight. And we, of course, hope for them to not make it, but they make it. Then on the flight, you can tell that the woman is starting to look towards the man's phone. She wants to know what is on her husband's phone. And there's some moments when the husband is going to the toilet and she's about to grab it, but then he comes back and takes it, so she can't check it. When the entertainment system is out, the husband falls asleep. And I was thinking that he should fall asleep like this, with his mouth open. And then the wife takes the phone and tries to unlock it with Face ID. But it's not possible. So she has to very carefully close his mouth and then unlock it. And when she's unlocking the phone, I guess you maybe have to open the eyes also. I don't know how she will do this, but okay. When she's opening the phone, she finds out, okay, he has an affair. And she gets like completely devastated. And she takes up her phone and she starts to take pictures, to take evidence of all the conversation, everything that have been going on. I was thinking also that it maybe is that when she's going into images, images are suggesting, do you want to make a little movie of your visits to hotel da-da-da? And you're like, okay, and she pushes, yeah, make movie, you know. And then it's like when Apple is adding the music itself, often very joyful music. And she sees these images of her husband, like, I don't know, maybe it's many different, maybe that's fun, like many different young women, you know, banging them in this hotel room with joyful music. Okay. But what I want to use with this setup then is, of course, that they have like then 17 hours. And can you think of a more horrible place than have to deal with this kind of conflict than on an airplane, where you have passengers all around you and you have to like try to stay calm, you know, like, and dealing with the emotions, dealing with like that roller coaster that it will take for them. And of course, also for them when they are dealing with the fact that the realization that they are maybe going to die. And I have two memory images that I want to tell you about that this couple have. They have a memory that they have created, a future memory that they created when they met, when they got together. And it was a memory that they share as a goal image of their relationship. And it is that when they are 80 years old, they should still be together, and they should live somewhere in Europe in a city. And when they have been out for a long walk, there's this moment when the wife says, I'm just going to go and shop something, but I come to the apartment later. And the memory is that the man is saying, like, okay, so when you are walking away towards the shop, I will stop up and I will look at you. I will look at your back. And I will look at you when you're walking there with your trench coat and you are 8 years old. And I will love you just as much as I do now today. Maybe we will see this future memory in the beginning of the film. And then I was thinking in closer to the end of the film, this man all of a sudden will come back to the memory. And he will come back to that he's walking on this street, he's turning around to watch his wife, but when he's turning around and sees her, she's walking there with someone else. And he wakes up and he tells his wife about how this memory have changed now. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
How many want to invest in this movie?
Oh, not everyone. Interesting. When you started speaking and we were 5 minutes in, I thought, okay, we should have named that session differently. We should have named it Spoiler Alert or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, and I want to start with that, and then we come to the audience for a sec.
Can I ask one question? How long was the pitch?
Now it's 40 minutes.
Okay.
40 minutes, about 40, 35, something like that. Not 2 hours. And so there's this one word, intellectual property. So what does it mean to you? So you tell a story, you share it with filmmakers here, they write notes, and then there's a film that is called The Entertainment System is somehow almost down. And then
let's see who makes the best one of this.
Now, but what is it with you? What is it with your story? So it's the story itself and what happens, or how it is made. So.
Sorry, what do you mean? Like when I'm pitching it, or when I'm.
Because many people do reveal their stories very much. So they say, "Oh no, I don't even put a synopsis in my pitching deck or so."
But you know what I think it's because that you are afraid to evaluate what you actually are working with. I think it's a little bit connected with the myth about being a creative person, that you shouldn't open up too much because then the magic disappears. And it's almost like all the students that I have in film school, because I'm also teaching at the film school in Gothenburg, you can tell that the students are often very conventional. They are and also very conservative, and the teachers are the one that is progressive. It's very interesting when you go to a film school that very often the students are the one that is more conservative and conventional. And it's almost like that you are protecting an old-fashioned idea about the creator as a genius that is in connection with God. And that's where you have your dialogue with God, and then you're creating your art piece that is this genius art piece. So they don't, it's this old myth, I would say, and the second one is that you are afraid of starting to talk about what you're doing, because maybe the energy that you get back will make you less motivated of doing the film that you're thinking about doing. But I try to encourage them that you will never be good in pitching a film from the beginning. You will never be good. So try to take away the prestige of telling, but you have to tell what is the core, what is your interest, what is the spark that have started your motivation of doing this film. And if they manage to do that, and then they can build more and more around the film. And for me, it is like if you're peeling like an orange, you can go deeper and deeper into that. So if they feel scared that it take away the magic, yes, that's good, because then you have to open up another layer in the process. Because otherwise you will lose your motivation. So you have to dig deeper and deeper, and you can only dig deeper if you're taking away the surface layer and the second layer and the third layer. And the only thing I'm doing when I'm on the film school in Gothenburg is to have pitching courses with the students, to make them more used to standing in front of an audience and talking, presenting their work, talking about themselves. And we start already in grade 1 to have these pitching sessions and encourage them about talking about the process. For me, it often means that when I do this, people come back with ideas that I never thought about myself. So for an example, when it comes to force majeure, the scene with the family sitting on the outdoor restaurant. I pitched this scene to a friend of mine, and I said it's a family that is sitting on a restaurant, outdoor restaurant in the Alps, and this avalanche is coming down the mountainside. And in the beginning, everybody's happy and cheering, and in the end, like 20 seconds later, they are completely freaking out in panic and running away. And we see the snow smoke comes in, but then it turns out it was only the snow smoke. The avalanche didn't reach the restaurant. The next day, this guy that I pitched to, he came back and he said to me, "What if it's only the father that runs away from his family?" And it's like, bam, there it is. So originally, the idea was that the film should be called Tourist, and it should be 4 different tourist situations. But when he came back and said this to me, I understood that's the film. And then I built the whole film around the setup of that. And in Triangle of Sadness, when the survivors on the island, when they find the lifeboat, my idea was from the beginning that it should be a mechanic from the boat that was in the lifeboat, a man. And he should be the only one that knew how to make fire and to fish. Then it was a student at the film school. When I was pitching this, it was a student at the film school. He's like, "Isn't it more interesting if it's a woman?" And like, yeah, you're right. But so I think it's super important to not have prestige when you are pitching, because when you're pitching and you're telling it to other people, if everybody have an open mind, then you can start to play ping pong with each other with ideas. And all of a sudden, someone is saying something that can be unexpected, but can be exactly what you need. And when 2 brains or more than 2 brains are associating together, something happens. You know what can happen when you are with a dialogue with a group of friends and you are around a table and you start to talk about things. Much greater ideas comes up in that moment than if you sit by yourself in front of a paper. To sit with a computer by yourself, it's a different kind of dialectic. It's also can be very progressive for the content. But for me, I need to know from the beginning of the end what is going to happen before I sit and write it down.
Would you agree that we make a test and ask the audience once for one feedback?
Sorry,
would you agree that we make one test and ask the audience for feedback?
Yes, sure.
Who has one? So we have microphones in the room.
Interesting moment.
On all balconies. And now I'm really curious. So there's 2 hands here. There's a hand over there.
Oh, do I just...
Oh, there you have the microphone already? We can't see you really. Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay.
We can't see you. This is.
I'm upstairs.
Are you upstairs?
Here.
Hello, balcony. Okay, go ahead, please.
Först och främst bara, Ruben, så himla jävla stolt över att ha en göteborgare som är här uppe och scenen representerar.
Yeah.
Secondly, my feedback. So, I have 2 thoughts. One, in that moment where you have the scene that's like 12 minutes, right?
Yeah.
What if about 6 minutes in, there's one moment where we almost think that the silence is going to be over, only there's another 6 minutes after that moment.
Great idea, yeah.
Second thought, thank you. Second thought, in the scene where the wife is trying to get a hold of the man's phone and it does all this thing, I think instead of a lot of young women, there should be something like a flurry party, or what are those called? Fluffy parties? The people that like to dress up as like animals and have sex? Mm-hmm. That, or like bondage, or something like really just, like extra, okay?
Interesting thought.
Just saying, okay?
Okay. That's good, thank you.
Thank you. So, another feedback.
Yes.
Here's the microphone. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun in the last hour. Completely brilliant. Amazing to kind of witness how your mind works somehow and how it's so playful for you. Like, it's just fun. When you were talking about the long haul flights and being 18 hours or 23 hours, and I was immediately thinking, oh, it's really interesting because it's going from New York to Mumbai or something. And what does that mean? Who's on that flight? And is there someone, it's the first time they've ever been to India? Or is there and you're so brilliant with your the way you work with status in films and like economic status and cultural status. And I just thought, to witness that playing out in a flight from between those two contexts would be fascinating.
Yeah. Can I tell you one aspect of that that I actually got also a little interested in? It was that you remember the South Korean flight that crashed a couple of years ago and disappeared. Then they were looking into different cultures when it comes to the crew working. And I don't know what it is like for an Indian crew, but if you look at the Asian and the South Korean crew, they never address each other with the first name. So they always address each other with the last name. And the hierarchies are so much stronger on the South Korean airlines. And what probably what could have happened on that South Korean airline that they don't know, but it is that if the co-pilot sees there's a problem ahead of the flight, let's say that there's a storm or something like that, and he never can say to the pilot, I think we should go around that. He can only say, do you see it's a little dark ahead? Because it has to have to be the pilot that suggests. So this study turned out to tell that it's more dangerous to go on flights where people address each other with the last name than with the first name. Because when you address with the first name, then the hierarchies are less strong. So there can be something very interesting to use a culture aspect of that, not only maybe for the passengers, but also maybe for the crew.
Thank you. We have a third one. Probably there on balcony 3. Go ahead, up on top.
Hello. Oh my God, this is awkward.
Where are you?
I'm over here.
Up there.
Hi. Sorry to do this because I feel compelled to. I really would not love it if it were me there. But when you talk about the beginning of the film, when you say you're going to put the information that the flight has crashed and everybody died, I thought like being a film about death, the paperwork that our death becomes eventually. And I think maybe if it was an insurance paper telling all the items that were on the plane, like the sandwiches, like the how many, how can I say, chairs and everything, and the cost of that, and then we could see that the flight has crashed. For the insurance company, that's a number, just a number, and that the systems, the entertainment systems, would not count because they were already dead, you know?
I'm not 100% sure that I understand, but...
I think it's like not show the like a lettering of all the people that died and the plane has crashed, but begin the film with the insurance company telling...
okay, now I get it. Okay, okay. Yeah, okay. Sure, okay, interesting.
I don't know.
Thank you.
How do you do that, Ruben? Do you have it in your phone?
Yeah.
So I assume people are telling you now and then such kind of stories, or you saw the bracelet thing in the plane
Exactly.
now. So where is it? So
No,
in your
but
mind
I put it in the phone. So I have it in notes. I put
Yeah.
everything.
And how do you organize those notes, if I may ask?
No, now they are not organized at all. But but when you are pitching the film, then all of a sudden you realize, there I should put in this idea that I have in notes. And for an example, where the thing with that the husband falls asleep with his mouth open, there was all of a sudden we were going in a car with Philippe Aubert, the producer of the film, and he fell asleep and he had like completely his mouth open, and then then I take a picture of that, and then I put it into the notes. And then I remember, this is how he's going to fall asleep. But one thing that I think is one of my strengths of being a director, or a feature film director, is that stamina to keep with an idea for a long time. So when you work with an idea Triangle of Sadness took 5 years to do, and the previous films that I've done, maybe 3 or 4 years. And you have it in the back of your mind, everything that you are experiencing, of course you know this already, you are creative people, is filtered through that idea. And therefore you are constantly, how to say, sculpturing the idea. Yeah. So I can only work on one project at a time, because then I feel that my focus is much more, yeah, I'm much more sensible for picking up things and so on when I only have one project that I'm bouncing things against.
At which point of that whole process, let's say the traditional factors of a film come in, so like main character, story, structure, and everything. So you have already a rough structure, probably you haven't even revealed the entire arc of that film you have in mind, but in Triangle of Sadness, for example, so we do have main characters, and at which point you were sure that this is the person I focus in first part, second part, and so on?
That is something that I 100% have not decided yet, but I would say that I'm in the crossroad of going in two different directions. One direction is to tell the collective story about what is going on in the flight. The other direction that I can go with the script is to make the couple as the main characters that you follow through the film, and you're experiencing the things that is going on the flight a little bit from their perspective. And one thing that I'm curious to go in the other direction is that it's a great challenge to do a film that is a collective film, completely a collective film. It's something that is going to take a lot of effort, and it's going to be much harder to make the audience stay in the film and be completely focused on the film. But if I go the other path, I go a safer path, I would say, and I'm going to have a limitation to the film that makes it easier to do it, and structure-wise also to do it. And I don't know yet which path I'm going to go, but one thing that I decided after Triangle of Sadness, I mean, Triangle of Sadness is fashion world, luxury yacht, deserted island. It's like 3 environments, and it becomes rich only because of these 3 environments. And then I decided, okay, I will take the challenge of letting a film 90% take place in an airplane. And how do you make that into a dynamic experience? And that is like one of the biggest challenges this time. And that is something that I also communicate to the team. How do we do this to an epic movie? To be only on one set for a feature film, but still we should have an epic, rich feeling when we are leaving the cinemas. So all these different directions that the film is taking should also be bounced towards that fact, that the challenge of how do we tell this film from one from almost chamber play.
How long would you consider, is this the main thing you do to develop a film? So like developing so freely, it seems that there's an entirely free process. So so far you haven't mentioned your producer, you have mentioned your producer, so he inspired your film, but you haven't mentioned the producer as someone saying, okay, when are you going into the script? When do we have main characters? How long will it be? Whatever, and also. So when does that come to more the, let's say, traditional parts of producing a film, writing down that script, and how does that script in the end look like? Yeah,
I mean, I always say to the producers, this time it will be only 2 hours long. but I have never succeeded in that. After this pitching period, then I sit and write down, and probably I will write it at the same time that I'm starting to deal with casting. And then when I have written it down, the script that I'm writing, it's much more almost in a novelist form. The 3 previous scripts, like Force Majeure and The Square and Trial of Sadness, I have also published as books. Then after that script is written, because the reason that I don't like to write in American Standard is that I sometimes want to write what are the characters thinking, they even go back to thinking about the past, even if I'm not even planning about filming it, but it gives me something to give to the actors when they are trying to figure out how to play play the characters. So there I let myself be completely free when it comes to the writing. Then from that point, we decide, okay, these are the scenes. Then we narrow it down to what we're going to film. And then we sometimes, just in order to get the money, we have to write the script in American Standard. Then we have someone else writing that script from my script. And that is a script that I never use, basically. It's only sent to the investors. And you know what? Quite often the investor don't read the scripts. So, yeah. Yeah, so I would say that when we have broken it down and say this is what we're going to film, that's the moment when the producer knows, this is how much we have to estimate the costs and so on.
And what of that method and practice is also kept in the way when you work with actors? So how much they can bring in their own ideas, how much they can bring in that, or you seize that freedom of eternal thinking and bringing in new eyes. So when, or is it at that point when you have the script and when you enter it into the scene, not as open as it was before?
I think often the script is changing because of so many different parameters for me. One is who is going to play the part. So if I'm writing the script and I think of a certain character to play the part, I'm still open through the casting process of who is going to play the part. And it's just fun to try out the scene with someone that's a little bit unexpected, just to see what happens, because it's going to give you new ideas. And so, for an example, when Zlatko Vuric played the Russian oligarch in Triangle of Sadness, from the beginning I was thinking a much more macho oligarch, a much more stereotypical cliché idea about the oligarch. And then he made this happy, joyful guy, and of course then I have to change the script because he's going to play the part. And what I do then also is that when I'm trying out the actors, I do improvisations around the most important scenes. So for an example, with Carl and Yaya, the characters that play the main roles in Triangle of Sadness, I did the bill scene. So all the actors that I was trying out for that part, they were doing the bill scene. And then I play in the scene also. I like to take part in the improvisations because then I get to know quite much about the scene. I get to know in my body what it feels like to say the lines that I'm planning and so on. And I can also try out different things from different perspectives when I'm playing it. So I played both Yaya and Carl in that one. So Yaya when I'm trying out the male actors and Carl when I'm trying out the female actors. Then if you have a very clear setup, clear situation, then basically anyone can act. If you have something that is easy to identify with for another human being, anyone can act. And very often when you start improvisations like that, great lines comes up. And what I ask the actors is always to use your experience as a human being. Don't project another character doing this. Like think of if yourself ended up in this situation, what would you do? Because it's kind of hard to create a character that is as rich as your own life. You know, when actors are saying, yeah, I'm creating a backstory for this character and so on. So I'm creating a backstory for Christian, that is the curator of the art museum. I always say, no, don't do that. What if you were a curator of an art museum? What aspects do you have to deal with? What are the materialistic consequences of being in that position? Then they have to get to know the profession, and they have to get to know it from the center of themselves, rather than creating a character. So I always work like that. I always, okay, are you going to play the chief stew on this yacht? Get to know what it is to work on a 5-star hotel, and then use yourself as a core, because I think it's actually almost like an ideological different view on us human beings, how we behave. One is the neoliberal idea about that we are free individuals that act from our own position, and we are, it takes a certain character to do certain things. The other way of looking at it is more from a sociological perspective, where we say that it's the setup of the situation that is pushing our behavior in different ways. So, and I much more prefer the sociological approach, that trying to figure out the different scenes, that is this possible for you as a human being to do? And if the actor sometimes says, no, it's not possible for me to say this line, then I can change the setup a little bit in order to investigate, is it possible for you now? So I always ask the actors, is it anything here that you don't believe in, that it's not possible for you to do? And I love when they say, no, it's not possible for me to do it. Because then they're using their own instrument, and we are not starting to fake things. We have to find a solution that is studying human behavior in order to get to the result.
Do you rehearse a lot?
On some scenes I rehearse a lot, but on some scenes not so much. But we always rehearse the day before the shooting. And then in the beginning of the day of a shooting, when the camera comes up and we are starting to look at the scenes, there is some possibility of improvisation also. But improvisation, when I work, it have to be very strict frames. It have to be very clear frame what the actor, where they're coming from, where they are going to, and which flags they have to go around. But in between that, there is a possibility for the actors to do things that is coming up in the moment and try out these things in the beginning of a day. But then we lock it. And then because I don't want it to feel improvised at all when we are doing the final takes. And what I do is that I do take 1, take 2, take 3, and it becomes better and better, often up to take 20. Then it gets worse. Then the actors are losing energy and so on. And I try to push up then the level, like so we get above take 20. Then if we have time, I say, okay, let's go for a half an hour break. When they come back, I say, okay, 5 takes left. And then we start a countdown. And these 5 last takes, they're often very similar to each other. But what I'm trying to do in that moment is now we are creating a super strong presence, like in all of you that is here. I also have started to bring the whole team. You know, sometimes you can experience as an actor that you see in the background someone is standing and looking at their phone. Even if it's 50 meters away, it is annoying. And then I gather the whole team, so they are sitting behind the camera and also looking at the actors. They should have maximum attention now. And I'm trying to build the feeling we are playing an important football game together. It's a World Championship finals, and now we're going to win this. And then 4 takes left, 3 takes left, and like really trying to push up the intensity. And what I did now when I was shooting Triangle of Sadness was that I brought a gong to set. So before I did the last take, I hit the gong, you know, boom. And instead of saying action, you let it just go out in silence. And then one of the actors have the cue to start the scene. And it's very interesting how strong the feeling becomes, like when everybody's looking, everybody is like hoping for them to pull off the best take. And but what happens is often that they charge too hard on the last take, so the second last take is better.
Very smart. Thanks for revealing that. Let's take another question, or a comment. So here's an enthusiastic hand in the first row. Microphone is coming from that side. Here, please.
Thank you. I was thinking that as in the individual story, what if we have a couple who the guy is like, I would not say from where, but is like a little bit mommy boy. And
sorry, what?
Sorry?
What did you call that he was?
I would not say he's from like where, but like he is a little bit like mommy boy.
Okay.
And so the couple had a discussion, maybe we don't see it or we see it, that the woman doesn't want the mom to come on the trip with them, and she wants to be alone with the husband. But the husband says that my mom didn't go on a trip because she's scared for like I don't know, 10 years maybe, and this is the only chance that I can be with her and convince her that come on the flight, it's okay, because she has phobia, the mother. So when they understand that they're going to die, the mother wants to kill the boy, the son, and the wife is happy.
Okay.
Kind of.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
So, like a triangle relationship.
I understand.
Another triangle.
Yeah. Is this self-experienced? Not the actual crash, but the other part.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Okay.
Not exactly, but I'm just
Yeah, okay.
putting this in this situation.
But thank you. I think it's an interesting idea. I mean, it could be that the couple actually have the mother with them on the flight, because it could be even, you know, that unlocks the phone. Because if the mother is there, it's even socially more awkward for them to deal with that, of course.
The mother is with them.
Yeah, let's say that the couple that is unlocking the phone, they have the husband's mother is with them. Could be a possibility.
Yeah, it's the husband's mother.
So,
I think you're very close.
Yeah.
No, I think maybe.
You're almost there.
Did I like make it clear? I mean, did I explain it right?
Yeah,
What I
absolutely.
want?
No, I understand 100%. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just brought it into the film.
It's there. It's in the phone.
Yeah. Thank you.
The gentleman with the red beanie. It's always good to wear a red beanie because then.
Thank you. I was wondering about the wire in the plane. Like, do you have specific or expert information that there is such a wire in on the floor? Or is it just made up?
Yes. No, actually, I will definitely go into this and look at this research, the possibilities of ruining the plane and the steering. But I've heard about the flight that was crashing because of the wires to the entertainment system. But then it was because it was causing a fire. And my idea is that it could cause a fire in a place in the plane where the possibility to steer the plane is taken out. But I will definitely go into this because I think it's great that you pointed out, and I love when the spectator or the audience are questioning logical things, because very often logical things are important for how engaged the audience gets into the movie. So this definitely have to be solved. Yeah.
And then I was just thinking about the stewardess and stewards. Like, I was just wondering, how would they react on a plane crash? Is it something that they were awaiting, and maybe they're like happy that it finally happens because that's what you're kind of, what you're await or so?
But I had a friend that told me something fun when I pitched the film for him. He said, you know what? Once when I was flying over the Atlantic, I wake up because I hear someone crying, and I walk over to that little space that is behind the toilet, and there one of the stewardesses is sitting there and crying. So I think it would be interesting if, like, the passengers gets to know about the catastrophe that they see one of the crew members that are crying. And you're like, if you see a crying crew member, what are you starting to project on that? Of course. So that is one aspect of it that I was thinking. I didn't think that they would get happy, though. Yeah.
No, not happy, of course, but if someone gets like the news as a passenger, they might react in a certain way, but for someone who is doing this job for years, like, how would this reaction be? I really don't. Not happiness, probably, but also...
But maybe they, if they are very irritated on the passengers, maybe they enjoy to tell them.
Okay, thank you. Lots of hands down here. We can't see you upstairs. Second balcony, do you have a question? We want to be fair. So first balcony, here you go, please. And then it's up to you.
Hi, thanks. Hi. I know, Ruben, that you have always cultural background in your movies, like in your new movie, you're planning probably to have passengers who have different cultural backgrounds? If so, my question is how to get in your casting room?
How to get in your casting room?
Aha. You can email pauline@platformproduction.se.
Spoiler alert.
No, but
Say
actually,
it again.
if you do that if you want to, because we are collecting all the actors in a big catalog, and we are going through them. And as soon as we know more about the films, this is we are taking like everyone that have sent in their CV and so on seriously. And if you're lucky, and then you fit, and then you get to go on a casting. So you will find it at Pauline at platformproduction.se. You will find it.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's take another one here from the balcony once the microphone is there, since it's there. Here, for example. Just make your decision.
Hello. Two little questions. First of all, did you ever have any copyright problems with this kind of, so that somebody told you an idea for a movie and you said, yeah, great, and later he came and said, well, that was my idea in your movie, so do I get something for it? And the second question is, you said that you only work at one idea at a time, but do you have like 3 or 6 ideas for next movies, or do you just really do it after the one movie is done?
The first question, no, I never had any problem with that, that someone have said something like that. I feel, I don't know why, and I feel that the occasion that it could have happened is actually the 2 times I told you, that I told you before about the avalanche and about the Triangle of Sadness. I feel that if you open up and are generous about your idea and people participate, they're only happy if you are getting inspired of them. That is my general opinion about why I think it's have never happened. The second thing, sorry, what's the second question? It was
the future projects.
Yeah,
whether
sure.
you've always
Okay,
one
yeah.
idea of this.
No,
one.
I have another project also that I was deciding from, but I came up with the idea about the entertainment system is down first, and then I came up with another idea. I can tell you briefly about it. How 45 minutes? No, but it's called The Sexual Adventures of My Parents.
Full stop.
And I was thinking, I thought that was another topic that not really have been investigated, but I think that everybody have a memory of, or almost everybody at least, have a memory when they first realized that their parents were sexual creatures. And that it was something, you don't forget it, right? And I have very funny memories of this myself that I thought would be an interesting way to go into sexuality and try to discuss it without all the taboos. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at parents that are having sex from the perspective of a child, then you make it into something that is human immediately, and even if it's of course also charged in a different way. But then since I had the other idea first, I decided to go with that one. And it has very often been like this. We have a little tradition, me and my friends on the production company. It is that we sit down at a little cafe in Cannes after the premiere of the film. So we have done this since Involuntary, actually. So after Involuntary premiere in Cannes, we went to a cafe and we were talking about what are we going to do now? And then I told the idea about force majeure, that then was 4 different stories that I told you about. And from that moment, they got to know about what we're going to work on next. And the same thing have happened after the Square and after, Play also, and after Triangle of Sadness. That we have sat down at this little cafe, and now we decide on what we are going to do next. So yeah.
Is it really a decision you make together? So, or do you present an idea and then they say, okay, let's do it?
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about platform and how it works.
No, but I mean, I think that the idea in that first moment when we talk about it, it's just a small glimpse of an idea, so it can develop in many different ways. And often what they are saying and responding have an impact on me. Or if I'm trying to communicate something, and this is the part of the pitching, why it's so important with the pitching, is when I'm trying to communicate something and I realize it's not getting 100% over to the other person, then I find a way of telling the idea so it is more efficient in communicating it. So very often, like when this pitching is developing the project, is also the moment where people don't understand. So when I sit down together with Kalle and Erik, is their names, and tell them about the project, I can immediately say, here I have to work on the pitch because they don't get this part. So no, but it's actually decided in that moment, I would say.
Next time we will search for that cafe in Cannes. Keep your eye. So there's questions down here. So, hello, yeah, hello. Let me take one from the parquet, and then it's up to you. Anyone. So microphone, please decide. You, please. So many hands. Thank you.
Hello, hejsan. Also from Göteborg.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. So my question for you is, like, I feel like the main characters of your films are often your stories more, because you have so many characters and like it feels like you develop them a lot. Like, how do you pick and choose your main character in the end? Because now during your pitch you didn't tell us who's the main lead.
Yeah. How I choose the main characters,
or what's your thought about?
I mean, I think that. Are you talking about the actors or how I decide who the character is?
No, the character.
The character. I would say that when it's a man, then I write it's like myself experiencing it. So, for example, the build scene that is in Triangle of Sadness. I don't know if you've seen Triangle of Sadness, but the build scene is something that I've experienced completely myself, like the whole thing that is happening there. So often the male character is I write that it's me, but then I change it, of course, when it comes to which age and blah blah blah. And then the other characters, sometimes I decide it's someone that I know. The female character then becomes my wife, of course, when I'm writing, but then when I do the casting, then I have to be open enough to understand that the character will change when an actor is going to play the part. And I think this is something that happens quite often in casting, that you're trying to push an actor into a character that it actually doesn't work. And then you're working against the actor. So be very careful when you're doing the casting and you see a quality in an actor, that actor have to change the character in some way. And go with it, because it's only going to be better, and rather than trying to protect your idea about the character. So it's floating also in the casting process.
Thank you. On the upper balcony, please. It's coming. Patience.
Hello, good evening. After hearing your method of casting and working with actors, I would be interested if the German actress Mrs. Berben from Triangle of Sadness, if she was your first choice, and if it was not your first choice, or if it was your first choice, what made you take her? And if you like to explain what in den Wolken meant, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. In den Wolken actually comes from my mother-in-law. She had a stroke 8 years ago. She is German. After this stroke, she woke up and she had aphasia. So her speech centra was damaged, and the only sentence that was left in her speech centra was in den Wolken. So everything that she is communicating now is with that sentence. And it was kind of interesting to see how that family was dealing with that, because they did it with a lot of humor. And it was also interesting to see how, with this sentence, she could communicate so much just in different ways of pronouncing it. So they could even like talk about childhood memories and stuff like that, and she could say "in den Wolken," and the other family members realized, "Ah, yeah, you're right. No, it was like that," you know. So it was fantastic to see how much you could communicate with "in den Wolken." And my mother-in-law has a lot of humor. She's completely clear, except from aphasia. So we play a lot of card games and backgammon and stuff like that. But "in den Wolken" is the only thing she can say. And it is interesting if you look at aphasia, because very often it becomes bad words that they say. So it's often that if you have aphasia that they say like "fuck" or something like that only. And that is like so hard for the families to deal with, because they have the social awkward situation every time they are out among people. But when it comes to them, it was such a beautiful sentence. And it said something about her state, like, okay, I'm up in the clouds. And it was fascination for her destiny that made me use that sentence. And then when it comes to Iris Berben, it's a very interesting backstory. Iris Berben did a fantastic performance when we were doing improvisation around that sentence. And for an actor, I think it's a great, interesting challenge to have replace all you're going to say with "in den Wolken." Because what we did was writing out the script, writing out what she's actually saying, but replacing it with "in den Wolken." And you can think of how interesting challenge to pronounce "in den Wolken" in so many different ways. And Iris Berben did just an extraordinary performance during the casting session that made me make this decision immediately. I tried a lot of other actors also in this part. A lot of like Hollywood stars, a lot of the other great actors in Germany. But one thing that is interesting with Iris Berben was that my wife, she's a fashion photographer. She had been, that's one of the reasons that the film takes place in the fashion world. And one of the reasons that it also goes to a luxury yacht was that my wife told me a story when she was going on a yacht called Sea Cloud. Sailing yacht is called Sea Cloud. I believe it's German. I think it's in Hamburg, this yacht. To do a shoot with a German actress. And to follow her on that shoot, because they were selling the pictures to a magazine. When Iris Berben came to Berlin, I was in Berlin and doing the casting with her, I told her about the background, the story, the reason that we were on a yacht, because my wife had been on this Sea Cloud doing a shoot with a famous German actress, and it turns out it was Iris Berben. So it's like, aha, but you must mean Sina. And I'm like, yeah, how do you know? It was me. It was me that was on the yacht. So it was just a fun coincidence with, but she definitely got the part because she's a great actress.
Yeah. We have time for one more question. Thank you. We have time for one more question, and we pick it from the first balcony, please. Here you go.
Yes, first of all, I wanted to tell you that I'm very much impressed of your style of making movies. I feel like finally we have a director that can respect all the audience, and at the same time it's not for a very niche audience who are only film interested people, but it's more for a larger audience. And I feel this is like kind of, I really didn't see much people who are fulfilling this equation of having some kind of concept, artistic, and like really brilliant tools. At the same time, they have the common audience in mind. I mean, like you entertain us, or we laugh really from these small situations that happens in the film, but it's not like it's not like this kind of comedy that it comes from like Hollywood or common kind of films. And I wanted to ask you about what are the thought process that maybe also the ideas that challenged you to move from, or to have this kind of middle ground between alternative, artistic, conceptual into more common format. Thank you.
I made a film called Play. I think it was 2011. It was premiered in Cannes. Play was a typical like art house cinema movie, and it was very dogmatic when it comes to how it was made. It was made with single take shots, 42 different scenes that was made in single take shots. And when I was editing this movie, it was really a pain to do that because it was very hard to create dynamics in a movie like that. You can think of a film where the average take, an average scene is around 4 minutes and 42 in a row. First I had a pain editing the movie. When I was in the premiere in Cannes, I was sitting in the middle of the audience together with the producer. In front of me, just in front of me, there's an older couple that probably doesn't know that much about art house cinema. And when the first scene starts in Play, it's a 7-minute long scene without any cuts. And you see this guy that is sitting in front of me, he just goes like, ah. And he like refuses to look at the screen. And he's like, oh my God, you know. During the whole, this is the premiere screening, so you can think of how painful that is. And during the whole screening, he's sitting there and like just refuses to look at the screen. And what has his wife brought him to, you know? and there's a scene in the end of Play that I was thinking, now he's going to get now the bastard. Now he has been sitting here, but this scene is going to make him shocked, you know? And just about when that scene is starting, this guy is like standing up and leaving there. So after this, I realized I have to recut Play. And I went to Munich Festival, to do the painful thing of sitting through a screening once again with this movie that I know didn't work when it came to the rhythm. And this time, it's a crazy person in the audience, probably an old editor, that is starting to do like this when he thinks the cut should be. So when I'm sitting in this time, this screening, this guy like, you know, like, and he's like complaining, he's talking to the film. He's like, but why is it not cutting? And the audience starts to fight because there are some art house cinema fans that is saying, please be silent, you know. We are trying to watch it. And I started to think about a little bit being a young director, going into film school and looking up to a certain kind of cinema and starting to pose art house cinema. I don't mean that I did this with Play, but I really like Play. I love Play, and we recut it then afterwards, and it became much, much better. But I could also detect a certain side of me that I was posing, that I was dealing with the content that is important. And when you do that, you start to film in the tradition of art house, European art house cinema. So you're starting to follow the character a lot from behind. You never see their faces, you know. So I felt that it's a genre in itself. So, and all of a sudden when I get this feeling, I also felt it's not nicer to do that than to do a silly comedy. Because an art house director that is doing cinema like this is just as formalistically tied up to a convention as someone that is doing a screwball American comedy. So I felt I want to be more free. Yeah, thank you. I wanted to be more free. I want to make films that I actually want to watch myself. And, you know, and it's interesting because I had another friend that was telling me he was flying from Venice Film Festival to Toronto Film Festival. And you know, these two festivals, they are back on back. So the industry is often on the same flight. And he got curious, like, what are our industry looking at when we are on these airplanes?
The entertainment system is down.
Yeah. They are looking on the entertainment system, of course. But all of them were watching Adam Sandler. And I mean, it's nothing wrong with Adam Sandler, but I think it's interesting when we have an industry that is dealing with a certain kind of cinema, but we are not watching our own films. And if you look at how the European cinema was in the 70s and in the 80s, then it was still economically successful to do movies for the cinema. Then still you could make money. So the positive effect that a commercial industry has is that it creates a different kind of cinema. There are good things with the state-funded cinema, but there are also good things with the commercial aspect of filmmaking. And if you look at Buñuel, for example, he did wild, entertaining movies that, when you compare that with later on what the European art house cinema had become, it had become like a feeling of that you want to be intellectual.
From snobs for snobs.
Sorry, exactly, yeah. And I think that this is something that how our whole industry are dealing with in Europe. Also the critics, because the critics are going on a whistle when they are giving grades to the films. They are also giving grades dependent on which genre it is. So there are genres that are less than considered good and others that are considered better. And I will tell you about a horrible experience I had when I was screening a test screening of Triangle of Sadness here in Berlin. This is probably the most snobbish city in Germany, right? Or? Okay, apologize. But I had screened the film, a test screening in Campos, a small Spanish village where I have a house. Non-cineast, completely, you know, some German tourists, some Latin American people are working with tourists, high and low. And when they were watching the film, they were like screaming straight out, and they were like, if it was long, they were, oh my God, how long this film is. And they were like participating. There was a reason for me to watch things together with them because they created an atmosphere in the room. Then I went to Berlin and I had a test screening, and it was film experts that had been called to come and watch the film. And it was not a sound during the whole screening. It was completely silence from the beginning to the end, and it was impossible to evaluate if the editing was working or not because there were no energy, no dynamics in the audience. And so I think also the European film tradition have created a certain kind of audience participation. So if you go to a country like US, the audience understands we are a part of creating a good show and creating a good performance. While the European, in certain parts of the industry is evaluating audience immediately. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, we have to round it off, my dear. No, but I think that's a very valuable point in the end. And since you shared Pauline at platform.sa,
Yeah.
I would say I share talents at berlinale.de if you want to have a really good audience next time for your test screenings.
Great.
So I'm sure we have some people who would love to see the films. Thank you very much for being here, Ruben Östlund. Thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You can if you come up with any great ideas, you can also send it to Pauline.
We will. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us today. Have a nice evening. Good evening.